what's the difference between the intentions that work out and the ones that don't? And more importantly, and the stuff that I'm really interested in is, what does the actual science say about this stuff? What does the actual research say about this stuff? Because I don't know if you read a lot of productivity books. I probably read too many of them. They probably get in the way of me getting things done sometimes, but that happens to be my space. Some people don't want to do the research, and so they write about an idea like intention, then they just make stuff up. And you think, what? Just go to Google Scholar and type in this idea, and it'll come up. All this beautiful stuff will come up. And so intentionality is very much like that, where we all have this notion that we wish to become more intentional in how we act and how we live. But how do we actually get there?
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today on the podcast, I am thrilled to welcome my friend Chris Bailey, who has spent the last decade obsessively studying what it takes to get meaningful work done in a world full of distraction. A little bit about Chris. After graduating from business school, Chris made a very bold decision. Instead of accepting one of several full-time job offers, he designed a year-long experiment. For 12 months, he dove deep into the science of productivity, reading academic research, interviewing leading experts from around the world, and using himself as a human guinea pig to find out what actually works. He documented everything in a project called A Year of Productivity, which quickly captured global attention and was read more than 1 million times. That experiment became his best-selling book, The Productivity Project. He followed it with Hyperfocus, How to Be More Productive in a World of Distraction, which was a powerful exploration of attention in an age of constant interruption. Chris was actually on the podcast previously talking about that book a few years ago. His books have now been published in 20 languages worldwide, and now he's back with a new and deeply important idea. His latest book, Intentional, tackles a challenge that every high performer faces, that setting goals is easy, but following through to bring them to reality is really, really hard. I'm sure you've all felt that. He argues that the missing ingredient isn't willpower, hacks, or hustle. It's intentionality. And drawing from over a decade of research into productivity science, human motivation, and even Buddhist philosophy, in this book and this interview today, Chris reveals a practical and evidence-based roadmap for finishing what we start. What I love most about Chris's work is that it's not just repeating what other people say. It's not just talking about theories. It's that he lives it. He experiments with it. He works with it. And he takes his time to make sure that his recommendations are grounded in real research and science, something that is lacking in today's world. So super thrilled to have Chris here and for him to take that approach with all of us. Today, what we're going to do is truly unpack what it means to be intentional, which is really around how our values shape our actions. And this helps us understand why we procrastinate, which is super cool, and also how we can finally align our daily behaviors with the results that we say that we want. All right, everyone, super excited to dig into this conversation with Chris Bailey. Chris, welcome. We just had to hit record because we were both killing ourselves laughing about talking about being average, which is the opposite of what you're here to speak about today, which is being intentional. So thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Man, it's good to be here. Why be great when you can be average? It's the Chris Bailey story. No, I'm just kidding.
It's actually not the Chris Bailey story, just to be super clear, everyone. Your goal is actually about the opposite of that. And the new book is called Intentional. Amazing. Psyched. Congratulations. Way to go.
Thank
we were
you.
talking about this on our retreat back in December.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the opposite of being average, right? It's like intentionally following through on your goals. As the website says, it's setting goals is easy. Following through on them is a whole lot harder.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's dig into it. Let's think about how we can actually reach our goals.
Let's do it. Yeah. It's wild how easy it is to set a goal, but how difficult it is to actually follow through with it, to make it a reality, isn't it? Yeah.
And that's what is so curious, is that we have this vision, bringing vision into reality is the challenge.
Hmm.
I've heard so much about manifesting, and I'm like, okay, well, manifesting is fine. You can envision something, but if you manifest being fit sitting on the couch, it's not going to work. You have to go to the gym.
Yeah.
So the actual follow through is the game, which is why I love this so much.
Yeah, and this is the interesting thing about the nature of intention, I suppose, is when we do something, there was always an intention behind what we were doing. But not all of our intentions end up panning out, right? There's that saying that the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so the question then becomes, what's the difference between the intentions that work out and the ones that don't? And more importantly, and the stuff that I'm really interested in is, what does the actual science say about this stuff? What does the actual research say about this stuff? Because I don't know if you read a lot of productivity books. I probably read too many of them. They probably get in the way of me getting things done sometimes. But that happens to be my space. Some people don't want to do the research. And so they write about an idea like intention. Then they just make stuff up. And you think, what? Just go to Google Scholar and type in this idea and it'll come up. All this beautiful stuff will come up. And so intentionality is very much like that, where we all have this notion that we wish to become more intentional in how we act and how we live. But how do we actually get there? And one breakthrough with this in terms of the research process for this book is realizing that intention isn't a nebulous thing. There are many different layers of our life across which we can become more intentional. And we have names for them already, right? So we set goals, right? Which are really just an intention. An intention, I should say, is just a plan that will do something. So a goal is an intention. It's a plan. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. But we have intentions that are smaller than goals, which we call plans. We have intentions that are smaller than that, which we call our daily intentions. It's often our to-do list, which is really just a place where we store our smallest intentions. But then we have intentions that are broader in our life than even our goals, that exist over a longer time frame than our goals. Our priorities is another one of these layers. And the ultimate intentions that we have in our life are our values. And we were chatting about this on the retreat too, because values, kind of like intention, kind of like manifesting. Nothing wrong with manifesting, but you have to, look at the science behind these ideas in order to manifest the things that you want. I would love it if I could just lie on the couch and eat a large burrito and manifest a six-pack. But values are that kind of ultimate thing that a lot of people talk about and many people write about, where there's a lot of fascinating research behind them, but we don't always practice it. But the values research is fascinating. It turns out there are 10 fundamental human values that we all share in different amounts. And so when you have all these different layers of intention in your life, you can't just set a goal. You need to think about, okay, how does that goal fit with not just my daily actions and intentions, but my plans, my values, my priorities. And it's by considering all these different levels of intention in our life and the science behind them all that we actually follow through on what we start. So it turns out like intention feels like a nebulous idea. Values feel like a nebulous idea. Goals definitely feel like that as well. But there's literature behind all of these areas. It's fascinating and it's tactical too, which is my favorite part.
Let's dig into the 10 human values to get us going, if you don't mind, because you and I talked a lot about that and had a great convo, and I'd love to sort of bring that out.
Yeah.
What are a few of them? Let's help people understand these fundamental human values.
Oh, yes. So I love this idea. So research by Shalom Schwartz, he pioneered this theory of fundamental human values that has been validated cross-culturally, more than 60 countries, hundreds of thousands of participants. So it's not something that some guy made up. It's something that with real research. And there were originally 10 in his original research papers. Later, and I don't want to get in too nerdy into it, but later cluster analyses showed that there were 12 fundamental values that we all share in different amounts. And so I should just list them, because I think when somebody hears these values, they see themselves in some, and then others, they think, man, that idea is so repulsive to me, and so they don't have those values. And so so here are the 12. The 12 are self-direction, so going our own way. It includes creativity, productivity too. It's a big one for me. It's my highest value. I know it's high for you too, which we were chatting about. Stimulation is a value, which is sense pleasure, right? And so it's just kind of novel stuff. Hedonism is pleasure. It's another human value, and that has a lot of sultry connotations, I should say, but it's just pleasure. It's just pleasure of the senses. Achievement is a fundamental human value. Achieving things, a big value for us, people who listen to the podcast. Well, it's a bit lower for me, but we could talk about that if you want. Power is another fundamental value. So that's power over not only people, but also over resources. Face is another value. So that is really valuing how we come across to other people, and also avoiding humiliation at the same time. Security. And I should say, by the way, I'm cheating. I have these values in front of me. I don't know these off by heart. Well, I do, but I'd probably...
I'm writing them down.
Okay, good. Yeah, because I'd probably miss one or two. So face is one. Security is one, which actually, so that includes personal and societal security. Research has shown that it's a value that is going up right now. So we're valuing security more over time right now because of conditions as they change around us. Tradition is another value. So the customs, the norms in the groups that we love. Conformity is a fundamental human value. So it's living inside of the expectations that other people have of us. Humility is a fundamental human value. We're both Canadian. Feels like a very Canadian value, I think, on a lot of different levels. So it's recognizing on some levels, our insignificance in the grand scheme of things. Universalism is one, which is protecting the welfare of people and of nature. And the final value, we're at the end of the list here, is benevolence. So it's kindness, it's serving others. And so every single decision we make and don't make is motivated by these values, right? We're always either minding other people or ourselves. We're always trying to improve things or conserve things. And the confluence of those values, it leads to the decisions that we make. It leads to the motivations that we have. And it leads to the actions that we will take. And so in any moment, when we're deciding whether to act or to not act, including towards the intentions that we set, our values are kind of dueling, behind the scenes against one another. So if we value pleasure and we also value, self-direction, so we're trying to be fit, but we want to go our own way with a workout plan, we might find that we have this well-crafted workout plan, but that's conflicting with our value of pleasure because we just want to lay on the couch and eat that large burrito that is now firmly planted in my mind, and might be ordered after we chat here today, Greg. But it's interesting that they're a series of essentially trade-offs, but they're what motivate us to do anything and everything that we'll end up doing.
So I might take this a step further then and say that when we have a really good understanding of our human values, self-direction, stimulation, hedonism, achievement, power, faith, security, tradition, conformity, humility, universalism, benevolence. Yeah. When you have an understanding of where you sit, which ones are important to you, then we know what drives our decisions. We know what drives our motivations. We know what drives our actions, which makes things so much easier to understand, especially if you notice that maybe there's a breakdown when it comes to your actions mapping to your goals.
Yeah.
And maybe values are the explanation for that.
Yeah, and this is where the rubber meets the road, because it's this theory that's fascinating in theory, and we can do these tests and think, okay, these are my top values, and I actually did partner with the company that made the best values testing instrument in the world, to create. To create a values testing instrument for the book that's rooted in the actual science, in the methodology of this research. But it's fascinating because we have all these goals. And so if you look at the nature of follow through and what we don't do, we all have kind of this graveyard of goals, right? And that when we look at our past, it's like, oh, I didn't achieve that, or I didn't achieve that. And the thing that most of them will have in common is they don't fit with our motivational nature. But there's almost always an edit that we can do to our goals to make it more in line with our motivational nature. So like maybe you have some boring employee handbook or something that you're writing. And so on your to-do list, it says write employee handbook. And the thought of that, it probably feels aversive to you, right? It has characteristics of aversion, which there's also interesting research behind this concept of aversion, which leads to procrastination. But write employee handbook, that fits with the value of conformity, right? Because it feels like something we just have to do. And so we have to get it done. But maybe your biggest value is benevolence. So being kind to other people, serving other people, something as simple as editing that goal from being write employee handbook to mentor and guide and welcome new employees through handbook project. It might be the same set of actions that you take to achieve the goal, but what's different is how it's framed cognitively for yourself. And so there's an attractive nature that comes through with the goal, right? So if you have a goal to, I don't know, get 6-pack abs by beach season or something, that fits with the goal of face, which is how you come across to other people. But maybe you don't care. Maybe you don't care how other people perceive you, but you value self. So my top two values are self-direction, going my own way, and pleasure. And so just that sense pleasure, enjoying the burritos of life. The burritos of life. That would be a good memoir title. So a better goal for me, like I wouldn't be motivated in the slightest by get 6-pack abs by beach season, but a better goal for me might be to, experiment with 3 ways of eating to find the one that I enjoy the most or something. It can accommodate the goal and the original intention, but it fits with more of the different layers of intention in our life. This is why it takes a book to write about this, because there is a lot of meat here that we can do to shape our goals around what we value.
Well, and the really cool thing is that we now know that there's science, right? Like
Chris
Bailey, you study the science behind this. You went into Google Scholar, you looked at the research to find out what it is about values, which everyone talks about. We all, companies have their values. Some homes have their values. We have values.
Yeah.
But there's research around that, and you can use that research and thinking through identifying what are your values, which then make it possible to craft goals that are in alignment with those values, which you then are more likely to be motivated to actually do, which then drive action to move you towards those goals.
Yeah.
Where do priorities fit into this? Does this help you then define what your priorities are? Like, and that I had a discussion earlier today with a coaching client about this. That's why I'm curious. And where do priorities fit into this? Yeah,
priorities are an interesting part because of these different areas, there's the least amount of research on priorities.
Really?
Yeah. So when you look at the different areas of intentionality research, this picture begins to form. I call it the intention stack in the book, where essentially imagine a funnel-looking thing where the values create. It's hard to. Maybe if you just Google intention stack, if you're listening to this, it'll come up. So values kind of create the depth of our intention. They create kind of the 3D architecture of our intention to get all nerdy CAD about it, I guess.
Yeah.
and the different durations of time that we have to express our values, they're the width. And so priorities exist between our goals and our values. they're interesting in this way. And
Say that
in a
again.
way, priorities exist between our goals and our values.
Got it.
And
Okay.
so priorities are shorter in duration than the values that we have, which take place across our entire life, but they're longer in duration than our goals. So our goals might, contribute. We might have a few goals that contribute to the same priority. Like health is a great example of a priority, because people ask, okay, where does health live on this list of values? Because you think, isn't it something that we all have bodies? We all have this physical manifestation. Where is this on this list of values? But anything that can be expressed through our values is a priority, if that makes sense. So some people might want better health as an achievement, right? They want to be fit, and they want their achievement to be their own fitness, right? How they look. Some people might really want to look good to other people, so their health is an expression of face. Other people might really want enough energy to be with their grandkids, and so their health becomes an expression of benevolence. Other people, this is what I find hilarious. When you have people who are, super jacked and really fit and have a low body fat percentage, some of them, they wear tight fitting clothes and, because you need to see their muscles. And others, they'll wear like baggy clothes, but they're super fit underneath. So for those people, it's an expression of humility, or that's a way humility is expressed. And so our values become this broader story that our priorities fit inside of. And so in the context of intention, a priority is bigger than a goal, but smaller than a value.
I find that super helpful. I'm looking at the intention stack in front of me here, which is really cool. Pulled it up. All right, let's just take a little bit of a break. Let's breathe for a moment so that we can integrate all of this incredible science. And at this point, I'd love for you to share the episode with someone that you know. When you share this information, we all improve. We build a community together where we make the world a better place. So take a moment, pause, breathe, think through what we're learning, and share this with someone who could really benefit from learning this information. I'm going to read a little quote from the book just because it's fascinating to me. When a goal is aligned and connected with our daily actions and our strongest values, we fill out the full picture of a goal. When both of these things are in place, progress towards our goals becomes a change that is both remarkably tangible and also deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
I love that because when it's meaningful to you, it changes it from being like a habit or a routine into an actual ritual, which then amplifies everything that you're doing.
Yeah. And this is, I think, where a goal becomes, on a lot of levels, beautiful. Where a goal in its truest form can be an expression of the values that we have, but also expressed through our daily actions. And so it becomes a vessel where our broadest values, our deepest, most important values to us in our life, can be expressed on a daily basis, and where change feels more meaningful to us. And I think and this was an interesting thing in writing this book. So I dug deep into the research of essentially the science of goal attainment. But I also chatted with a lot of Buddhist monks over the course of writing this book, because intentionality, you could only get so far with the research behind it. There are a lot of gaps in the research, and where better to turn to? I'm biased. I'm Buddhist. I'm Buddhist. Where better to turn to than Buddhist monks who observe the causes and effects of the mind with regard to volition and choosing how we will act, right? And so what I remember asking one of the monks, where does intention come from? What a simple question. And frankly, I wasn't really getting anywhere from the research of it until I heard his answer and then connected a bunch of disparate parts of it. But he mentioned all the places that intention arises from our biology, right? We're on a road trip, need to go to the bathroom, so we set an intention to make a pit stop. It comes from our wanting to experience more pleasure in life and avoid pain in life. It comes from lessons we've learned. in the past, which leads us to set different intentions later on. It comes from the social environments we're a part of, right? The families that we're in, the culture that we're in, the social contagion that we experience. And the most beautiful place, and the place that our deepest intentions tend to come from, is something called our self-reflective capacity, which is our ability to look within ourselves and ask questions of our inner world to really determine not only what we want and what we'll find meaningful, but take that step back and determine, okay, what would make this a productive day? What will allow me to contribute a lot today, accomplish a lot by these traditional measures of success as well? So these goals that we have, these intentions that we have, they're not only beautiful, like they're misunderstood, I think, as well. So another area that the Buddhist-y influence, I suppose, with intention was, what is a goal even? What is a goal? We see them as this story of change that we're trying to make to our life. But one of the most helpful reframes when it comes to what a goal even is, it's a story of change, but what it really is a prediction. A goal is a prediction of where we believe our current and our planned actions will take us. And I don't know if you've ever tried to predict the future, Greg, but we're horrible at it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you encounter many futurists or anything. I don't think there would be futurists if people followed up with them, because right? If we followed up with futurists, there wouldn't the profession wouldn't exist, because we're so bad at predicting the future. And the same is true when we look at ourselves as the subject in our own life, where we try to predict the future of, okay, where are my actions going to take us? I think I'm going to achieve this goal. And then, of course, we don't achieve it. And so what we saw as a goal is really a prediction in disguise, which turns into an expectation for how things will go, which, because we're so bad at predicting things, turns into disappointment at the end of that road.
Oh, that's
rinse,
frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the idea of asking great questions is one of the greatest challenges. And when you thought about, what is a goal? I've been doing goal setting my whole life as an athlete and everything else. And I don't know if I've ever actually asked myself that question. What is a goal? It is a prediction based upon expected actions. That is really quite wild, especially when you may or may not follow through on those plans, which is, of course, what this book is all about.
Yeah.
So let's go really granular then. If we want to start crafting the actions, if we want to start turning these goals into reality based on our values, based on our priorities. We've gone through values, we've gone through our priorities, we've explored goals a little bit.
We're working our way down the stack.
We're working our way down the stack.
Yeah, let's go.
I have in front of me. Funny how that's guiding me in this conversation. And the first time you showed it to me, it blew my mind. So I love it. And so let's get into the actions now. How do we turn our goals and dreams based on our values into reality?
Well, a lot of them are going to be ugly, and that's the problem, right? Like, the easiest way to tell if a goal essentially fits with our priorities is we've done it already, right? And so the things that are left on our list that we haven't achieved, there's usually some massaging that we need to do. So some of that massaging.
So if there's a goal that's still on your list, it's going to require some work.
Yeah. And I would wager a guess that if there's a goal that's been on your list for a while, it's probably the wrong goal. And I'll explain that. What you're seeing when you see that goal, there's probably a kernel of what you really want inside of that, but not the whole thing. So there'll always be like some ugly things that we have to do, right? Lower your cholesterol. I don't know. You might not want to do that, but you have to get over the aversion to doing that. But then other goals, they require an edit, and oftentimes a heavy edit, so that they're more in line with what we value. So, setting that aside, let's dig into aversion, because aversion is an interesting phenomenon. There's science behind what leads a task to be aversive. And aversion leads to a phenomenon that we all know and love called procrastination. So we feel a sense of aversion when something is, there's 6 triggers of aversion. And those are when a task is boring, when it's frustrating. So think of doing your taxes, right? They're boring, they're frustrating, they're unpleasant. Far off in the future is the 4th trigger. The further something is, the less we feel compelled to do it. But we feel aversion a bit less when it's far off, but we also aren't motivated. When something is unstructured, we see it as aversive. And when something is meaningless, we see it as aversive. So it's not, in other words, not aligned to our values. So the editing our goals and reviewing them on a regular basis, that allows us to make these incremental improvements to them so they become more in line with our values. But then you have to look at the ugliest things that you have to get done and think, okay, what is actually at play here? Is it boring? Is it frustrating? Is it unpleasant? Is it too far away? Is it unstructured? And then you can look at which, you can become a surgeon, like a goal surgeon almost, and think, okay, what attributes does this task have that make it aversive? And what strategies can I invest in to overcome that aversion?
So we're talking, let's, continue with the analogy of getting in shape. Oh God, taxes. Personal and professional. I just skipped that one. I'm completely averse to that one. I just skipped it completely. It didn't even enter my brain. Did you mention taxes? I know what you're talking about. But just like fitness for some people might be boring. Going to the gym every single day is not how you want to spend your afternoon. Being in the gym might be frustrating. You keep working hard, but not getting results. It's unpleasant because lactate is uncomfortable. Yeah. Like, I get it. You can even just look at future, like climate change problems are, although they're here today, you could see they're far off in the future. It's less motivating. The unstructured piece is really curious because I really see that. When I see something that's organized and clear, I'm like, okay, cool, we can do that. Let's go. If it's all over the place, I just get confused and I do nothing. And meaningless is absolutely so powerful, because if it's meaningful to you, you will do it every single time. If it's not meaningful to you, you will not. My daughter currently has a bit of an injury, and so she needs to train at home a little bit more because she's an athlete. I've been doing her core workouts with her. I normally don't like doing core workouts, even though they're really important for my back. But now that she's asked me to do them, I do them every single time because that is meaningful to me. So it's so curious how that... I'm not averse to doing core workouts with my daughter. I actually really love it. It's meaningful to me, which eliminates any procrastination. That's so cool how this plays out.
Oh, it's so neat. And even the values. So, Terry Crews, the actor, I remember on a Reddit AMA that he did, somebody asked, what's your secret to going to the gym every day? What's your secret to doing it? And he said, make the gym like a spa. Make it the whole experience spa-like. And if you look at the values chart, that's hedonism. It's one of the most popular values. Yeah. It's pleasure / so that even an edit like that can make it more meaningful. But you're exactly right with the unstructured nature. That's such a big trigger of procrastination. It's the first place you should look, frankly. And I think when it comes to our goals, we spend and this might sound counterintuitive, but we spend too much time executing on our goals and not enough time planning our goals. So, maybe the ratio that most of us try to do is 95% executing, 5% planning. That's the wrong ratio. We need to in that case, I think it needs to be more of an 80-20 kind of thing, where 20% of our goal attainment should be planning and 80% should be action. And that sounds like a weirdly high ratio for how much planning we do, because doesn't every 1 minute of planning mean that we're not actually making progress for that minute on our goals? And that's not necessarily true, because when you look at how procrastination works, what you do when you plan is you find a way to fit a goal into your life. And so by nature, it becomes more meaningful to you, right? You feel a greater sense of control with it. You find a way to make it pleasant for yourself by integrating it into your schedule. You add structure. That's the big benefit to planning. And so really by surgically looking at your goals, what triggers do the big one sets? This would be tedious to do for every little thing on our to-do list. But when it comes to our broader goals, we should just at least glance at these 6 triggers of procrastination and think, okay, what is it setting off here? Because there are so many strategies we can invest in to overcome this phenomenon. Meditation is something that a lot of people put off, but it's so simple to add structure to even an unstructured habit like that. So you might have a conversation to yourself to fit it into your day. Okay, do I want to meditate for half an hour? No way in hell. Okay, what about 25 minutes? No. Okay, what about 20? Still no. Okay, what about 15? I could do 15. And so you add structure by doing that. You make it less frustrating. You make it less boring. You make it more pleasant. You bring it closer to you in the future. You increase your level of meaning because you have the control of that habit. And so there are a lot of different strategies that are more generalizable like that too, that we can use to overcome procrastination and aversion.
How do we bring this into our day-to-day life? Like, how do we craft habits based on this? How do we build our daily actions to bring them into alignment with our values, priorities, and goals?
I think time awareness is key. We're so often just not aware of where our time goes, right? We leave work, or we're winding down for the night, and we don't really we think, oh, work was just it was just a zoo. So much going on. And man, when I got home, I feel like there's just no time. No, there's time. There's just time. You're just not aware of where it's going. It's kind of similar to when people say they don't have time to read a book. It's not that they don't have time. It's that they don't have attention to where their time is going, right? Because people, people rarely have 20 minutes to meditate each day, but they have 20 minutes every day to watch reruns of Friends. And so it's really, upping your level of time awareness. And so having, and it goes back to that idea of our self-reflective capacity, having some reflective loop in our life where we get to think, okay, where did my time go? Tracking your time for a day. It sounds tedious. But the level of awareness you will get from doing this one strategy is absolutely remarkable. It's absolutely remarkable because even by just observing, I forget the name of the effect, you'd probably know, even just observing where your time goes changes where your time. What's the name of that effect? You know the one I'm talking about, right?
I do. Yeah. Where you measure you change what you measure. And it's in psychology too, where you name the condition. Yeah. And I'm blanking on it because you put me under in front of everyone. I don't remember, but
I don't remember either. Yeah. Very, but it has that effect, whatever that effect is called. And so you have the observer effect. Let's just use that as a placeholder name. And you also have the effect of being able to put a reflective loop around the data at the end of the day. And so one of the things I'm a big advocate for is grab a notepad, put the hours of the day on the left, and put what you do on the right. And then maybe add another column. What values are you feeding as you spend your time over the course of the day? We don't always have control over that at work, obviously, right? A lot of our work is assigned to us. But at home, what activities do you feel, what values do you feel your activities are most connected with as you go about your free time? It's an incredible reflection. And usually there are ways of, let's use the word, manifesting your values in your daily actions more skillfully. Did you find the word?
Well, I didn't. Actually looked it up and I couldn't find it. So now it's really going to bother me. And,
it's
going to ruin the rest of my afternoon. And I will be texting it to you shortly.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that we're now talking about manifesting and actions in the same sentence.
Yeah.
Because that's the game, right? We have these goals, but you've taught us that making sure that our goals are in alignment with our values is crucial. We can be torpedoed through what we are adverse to. So being aware of that is absolutely critical. But once that's sorted, we can then begin to create our daily actions, which then enables you to manifest your dreams, because
Yeah.
values plus action yields results, and it's just
Yeah.
amazing to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so the idea is, and this is where the rubber meets the road. What does being intentional look like on that daily basis? So
Mm-hmm.
you've got your man. We're hooking everybody. Nobody needs to buy the book now. It's great. You got your values. You've got your priorities. You've got your goals. I think I mentioned this, but make a list of goals that you review once a week, because then you can edit them over time too to be more conducive to what you value. I like to list my goals underneath the value that they're connected with in this goal list, so that it's just a simple little prompt for me, but it reframes how I think about them. Then during that weekly goal review, I'll bite off a little bit of the goal for the next week. I'll bite off like a little weekly sized chunk of it and say, okay, I have this goal to cut some body fat, or I have this goal to manage money in a certain way. What am I going to do this week to make that goal a reality? And then you go down the intention stack further to the plans that you have. Maybe you have a few weekly intentions. One of my favorite rituals for setting intentions, it's the rule of 3. You just set 3 intentions every day. That's it.
And I love that.
And I love doing this every day, for personal and work, and every week as well. So I personally set 3 intentions every day and week, and every year as well, actually. So these become my broadest goals that I'm after. The list is helpful, but having what I'm really, really after is really helpful too. And so in this way, your daily intentions. So when you get to work, before you connect to anything, just think, okay, what 3 things do I want to get out of the day? And everything else then gets in the way of those things. These 3 things become your North Star. You'll have to do email and stuff. There's always email and minutia. But when something new comes along, weigh it against the original 3. It's like, okay, is it more important? When you start the day with 3 emergencies and a new one arises, okay, is this new thing more important than the original 3? And so when you set these every day, you look to the weekly ones too, and you think, okay, how can I bite off a bit of these? And when you set the weekly ones, you look to your goal list, right? And so and when you edit your goals, they fit with your values. And so it's in this way that you can consider all of the different layers of intention in your life. And through these rituals, you up your level of goal attainment over time in a way that's actually rooted in the research, which is the best part of it all.
Chris Bailey, you've helped us understand so many things about turning our dreams into reality, how to finish what you start, which is super cool, all based on this idea of intentionality. The book is intentional. Thank you so much for sharing so much of that wisdom so generously with us here today. If everyone wants to check you out, you're at chrisbailey.com. I will put all of those links in the show notes. But thank you so much for coming and sharing all of this information with us today. This has been so fun, so interesting. Every time I chat to you, I learn something. This, certainly did it again today. So thank you so much, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's always good to chat with you. You're such a good guy. People should know you're a genuinely good guy. You don't just come off that way.
My 15-year-old daughter might disagree with you right now, but the rest of the world is all in on that. That's funny. I appreciate it.
One
Thank
more
you so
crunch.
much.
Yeah.
Stop messing up your side planks. Anyway, thanks, buddy. I really appreciate you being here. This is so fun.
Thanks, man.
All right, everyone. I hope that you enjoyed that conversation with Chris Bailey as much as I did. I love talking to Chris. We were actually up north recently and just had the whole weekend to break all of this down and dig into these concepts. And I just found it so incredibly helpful. And every time that I speak to Chris, I'm reminded that quote unquote productivity is actually about doing what matters. Like it's actually about doing the things that are really critical. It's about alignment. It's about values. It's about priorities. It's about our goals. And I guess most importantly, it's about our daily actions. And when all of these work together, that's what brings our dreams to reality. I think it's just so cool. What really stood out for me in this conversation was that goals are simply predictions. We're predicting the future. We're guessing to some extent, and we're predicting what we would like to have happen. But if we don't consciously design our days, then our default behaviors, your habits, if you will quietly shape our futures for us. I'd like to have a lot more control than that. If we want to have different results, that then necessitates intentional actions. So that's my takeaway from today. That's the work, that's the practice, that's what we really need to try to bring to life for ourselves. So, if today's episode sparked something for you, and let's face it, if you're still here listening at this point, it probably did. I'd love for you to take a few minutes and to reflect. And to help you on that journey, I have a few critical questions for you. The first one is, what are your top 3 intentions for tomorrow? What are your top intentions for tomorrow? Like right away, what are we going to do here? Second question, what values are you actually living right now? That might be enlightening, might be a little painful. Next question, where might you need to edit a goal so it more truly fits who you truly are? Where might you need to edit a goal so it fits who you are? Who are you becoming? Let's bring those into alignment. All right. If you found this conversation valuable, I would love for you to subscribe on your platform of choice that you don't miss any upcoming episodes. We have some great episodes and interviews coming up. I don't want you to miss any of those conversations. Also, if this has been helpful for you, we would love it if you would take a moment to leave a review for us on your favorite podcast app. It is incredible how much that really, really helps us and makes a massive difference. Your reviews help us reach more people who are striving to live a healthier, happier, higher performing life. So by doing that, you help others. Thank you so much for being a part of this community. Keep building your capacity, keep challenging yourself, keep growing, because this is a lifelong journey. It is not easy, but when you follow the science, you can make progress and increase your chances of success. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. We'll see you in the next show. All right, everyone, hope you enjoyed that session. This is a little note from the lawyers. This podcast and video contains advice and information relating to health and wellness and is presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes. We've made enormous efforts to make sure that the information is accurate and that what we've contained in this episode is based on science and research. However, it should still only be used as a supplement rather than to replace the advice of your doctor or other qualified healthcare professional. If you know or suspect that you have a health problem, it's recommended that you seek your qualified healthcare professional's advice before embarking on any program, treatment, or protocol. All right, thanks for listening in. Really appreciate you. We'll see you in the next video, session, or podcast.